He's
Okay.
well-ish. He's just busy. He's got a lot of things going on, and he's just
Yeah.
kind of tired.
Okay.
I messed
じゃ
up.
あ、聞いてください。Okay, so let's do some of these together. So some of these were easy because they were review words, right? So for example, to go is 行く、行きます、行きません、行きました、行きませんでした。Any problems there? Okay. Okay, we're going to go over the ones that you guys wrote first, and then we're going to go back and pick up some of the ones that got left out, especially if they're new. So to drink, 飲む、飲みます、飲みません、飲みました、飲みませんでした。No problems there? Okay, to read, 読む、読みます、読みません、読みました、
Yep.
読みません。
Deshita. Yeah.
Okay, 読みませんでした。Right? Okay, to write, one of our new ones, right? 書く、書きます、書きません、書きました、書きませんでした。There we go. Okay. いる、います、いません、いました、いませんでした。Good. You notice that it's a root verb. Okay. 買う、買います、買いません、買いました、買いませんでした。Good. U verbs that end in plain U change to plain E. So everybody understands how that one works? 食べる、食べます、食べません、食べました、食べませんでした。Good. 取る、取ります、取りません、取りました、取りませんでした。Alright. 来る、来ます、来ません、来ました、来ませんでした。Alright. わかる、わかります、わかりません、わかりました、わかりませんでした。Any problems with any of those? Good job. Alright. Okay, so everybody's good so far? And everybody understands that the shita endings, mashita endings, for example, wakarimashita means I understood, right? Past tense. Wakarimasen deshita, I did not understand, right? So, and all of them are consistent that way, right? All of the masu endings are the positive present tense or future tense of the verb, right? So I understand or I will understand, although that one doesn't occur very often, right? I don't understand, wakarimasen, and then I understood, I did not understand, right? So they all are consistent with that. Okay, so what is the verb to meet? Say again? Au, right? And the verb to have? Aru. Okay, so au and aru. Yep. And then to wait is? Matsu. Okay. So if we're going to conjugate au into the other four, it changes to? Aimasu. Yep. And then? Aimasen. Aimashita. Aimasen deshita. Right? Aru, to have, conjugates to? Arimasu. Arimasu. And then arimasen. Arimashita. Arimasen deshita. Because it is an U verb. Okay? It's another one of those U verbs that's disguised itself. Right? And then matsu, since it's tsu, what's it changed to? Chi. Yes. Okay. Ta, chi, tsu, te, to. So tsu changes to chi. So matsu changes to machimasu, machimasen, machimashita, machimasen deshita. Woo! Everybody's got it. Any questions about how to conjugate them? Does everyone understand the rules we're following and how to get from one to the other? And notice that we already know the dictionary form concept. We already know the mas form concept. You might need to learn new verbs, right? But once you have the dictionary form and the mas form and you know what those two parts are, you can extrapolate to masen, mashita, and masen deshita. You just have to note all of them follow that pattern. Masu changes to masen, mashita, masen deshita. Wakarimasen deshita. Somebody left out a ma. Okay. I didn't even see it myself because I was just expecting to see it spelled right. Okay. So, but does everybody see how that pattern works? It's a very easy pattern, right? So sometimes they refer to this whole thing collectively as the mas form verbs, okay? Because they all work off of this structure, right? Masu, masen, mashita, masen deshita, right? And you can even do a grid, masu, masen, mashita, masen deshita, which highlights very nicely that both of these are present slash future, right? Both of these are past, right? Mashita, masen deshita. Both of these, mas and mashita, are positive, and both of those are negative. See how that grid works? So that's your basic pattern, and you'll notice that the present tense negative, masen, and the past tense negative, masen deshita, have something in common. The masen part. Every time you make a past tense negative, what you basically do is you take the present tense negative and you add a piece to make it past tense. It's already negative, you just have to add the past tense part. Isn't that cool? And that's a pattern that holds through a lot of other conjugations in Japanese. So that's a very useful little thing to know about, that, oh, to make negative past, just take negative present and add a piece. That makes it negative past. Okay? And then positive present and positive past, usually there's a change there. Okay? But sometimes, if you think about it, you'll see that this one and this one combine to make that, sort of. Masen, and then, not mashita, but masen, and then the shita part combine. You just end up with a de in there instead, masen deshita, instead of something else. But do you see how they're taking this and an element of this and combining them and making that? You see that pattern? So that's useful to know, and it's also useful to know that as far as tenses are concerned in the Japanese language, everything else that we're going to learn later builds on this. As far as, simple present tense, simple past tense, simple future tense, this is it until we get into different levels of politeness. The only other tenses we're going to learn are the continuous tenses, which all work off of these. It's a different element plus this ending or that ending or that ending or that ending. Okay? So, in a sense, we've got our basic conjugations now, for neutral polite at least. There are going to be other things that we'll learn later, but we've got the basics. We can now talk about things that will happen, things that won't happen, things that happened, things that didn't happen, right? And things that habitually happen or habitually don't happen, right? So we've got all the basics. Isn't that cool? So, any questions about how to deal with these verbs? Okay, and now all the action verbs that they've added, basically you can do the same things with them that we did with other action verbs. So we already had hon o yomimasu. Now you can talk about tegami o kakimasu, right? To write a letter. We already had tabemasu, now you can do shashin o torimasu, take photos. The only thing that's new and different in terms of what they're adding is we're adding one sort of new concept regarding verbs, which is talking about existence of things with aru and iru. This part is a little different because these are passive verbs, they're stative verbs, they're not action verbs, right? The other verbs we've had thus far have basically been active verbs, right? We had destination verbs, actively going to a place, right? Ikimasu, kimasu, kaerimasu, right? Those were active in a sense of moving from one place to another, right? And all the other verbs we've had have been active as in doing something, right? Tennis o shimasu, playing tennis. Sushi o tabemasu, eating sushi, right? Nomimasu, yomimasu. Even if you're sitting still, you're still doing something when you're reading, right? Your eyes are moving, your brain is working, you're doing something, right? Arimasu and imasu are just talking about existence, okay? Here's your new kanji, hon. Hon ga aru. Notice that it's not o, it's not even wa, it's ga. Hon ga aru. Hon ga arimasu. Okay, just means a book exists. Okay? Either I have a book or there is a book. It can be either of those two meanings depending on the context. Okay? Hi.
Isn't ga also used for to understand?
Yes. That works a little tiny bit differently than aru, iru, so I'm kind of address that separately. But yeah, Nihongo ga wakarimasu. You can use ga for wakaru also. Okay? Hon ga arimasu, and then let's use, say, neko ga imasu. Iru, imasu, right? So neko ga imasu means the cat exists. Okay, so either I have a cat, like as a pet, or there is a cat, like it's sitting there, it's here, it's in the room, or it's in that house, or it's in a place. It exists. That's what both of these are basically doing. Arimasu and imasu are both just stating existence. They're not really telling you what the thing is doing. They're just telling you that it exists. Now, what's the difference between the two? Does anybody know?
Is one used for like objects and the other for like people or like?
It's hard to articulate it in English until you're told because we don't have this particular differentiation. The difference is inanimate versus animate. And it's not the same thing as living and not living, okay? Yes, rocks and books use arimasu, but so do plants and trees because they can't get up and walk on their own, okay? Animate would be animals and people, okay? So if it's got a mind of its own and it can get up and move, it's animate. Neko ga imasu. You would not say neko ga arimasu unless you're talking about a stuffed animal or a dead cat, okay? Hon ga arimasu. The book is an inanimate object, okay? Don't ask me what they do with Harry Potter. I don't know. Somebody can look that up sometime maybe and find out whether the monster book in Harry Potter takes arimasu or imasu, because I don't know. But, people always want to ask me, those kinds of off-the-wall questions, but the basic division is people and animals, imas, and everything else, arimasu. Right.
Are there any, at all, exceptions?
There are some odd exceptions, like cars generally are going to be arimasu, right? Kuruma ga arimasu. But when you're driving down the road and complaining about the guy who just cut you off, they tend to use the idiom with imas, because although you may be referring to it as that car is annoying me, really it's the person driving the car that's the problem.
So you're just making a personification of the car?
Yeah, so you're personifying the car in certain circumstances. Whether or not they do that sort of personification for other things like a biting book in Harry Potter or an android from science fiction, I'm not sure. That would be something somebody could ask a native speaker for help about and let me know, because I'm curious too. But that's the only idiom I know of offhand where imas gets used for something that would normally be considered inanimate, but because it is moving and we presume that a human is causing it to move, it takes the idiom imas for those special circumstances. But for now, we're not really going to have to worry about that, because we're not really going to be talking about cars cutting us off in traffic in Japanese yet. Right? But I wanted to just point out, so neko ga imasu, hon ga arimasu, and then if you're talking about location of those things, you can put your location phrase here normally. So, for example, tsukue no ue ni hon ga arimasu. Desk no top on book exists, right? Okay, or uchi ni neko ga imasu. House in cat exists, right? So you have the cat, and this can get translated as the cat is in the house, or there is a cat in the house, or sometimes even I have a cat in the house. Okay, and this could be the book is on the table, or there is a book on the table, or on the desk rather. Technically is desk, not table.
So existence, phrases like that, on top or stuff, use ni, is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Ue ni arimasu, when your verb is arimasu or imasu, you need the ni with the location word. If you're ending it with des, which is one of the things this textbook sometimes does, you actually don't. Teburu no ue desu, it's on the table. Tsukue no ue desu. It's just, it is on the table. Just like that. Right?
So if you were to add ka at the end and make it a sentence, would it be
A question,
asking,
you mean?
yeah, a question, would it be asking, does this thing exist, or is this thing?
Yeah, so hon ga arimasu ka could be, is there a book? Or could be, do you have a book?
Okay.
Neko ga imasu ka, do you have a cat? Do you own a cat? Or is there a cat? Is there a cat in that location? Or it could be asking you, do you have a cat? So, if somebody asks you, "Onei-san ga imasu ka?" They're asking, do you have an older sister? Not just does an older sister exist for you, but that's another way to kind of think of it, right? Basically, they're asking, in your life, does an older sister exist? So, "Onei-san ga imasu ka?" Is there an older sister for you? Do you have an older sister? So the idiom translates differently depending on the circumstances because English tends to put different differentiations in than Japanese does. Does that make sense? We divide up our language a little differently, and Japanese throws certain things together that we would say separately, and then puts divisions in other places that we would not put divisions. You know, so they differentiate between arimasu and imasu. English doesn't have a way to express that. But we differentiate between there's a cat over there and I have a cat, right? And Japanese doesn't make a clear distinction between there is a cat and I have a cat. Interesting, huh? So let's look at some vocabulary real quick. And I've got kanji vocab as well as the main vocab. So let's do some of each. Hai, kinyobi means Friday. And does everybody remember what this is? Metal or gold. So think about Golden Day or Money Day. Kinyobi is usually payday, right? Friday, most people get paid on a Friday, so kinyobi makes sense, right? Is everybody okay with this? Can I turn this part off? Okay. Okay. Mizu, which is water. Okay. And you recognize that from your radicals list too, don't you? Yes, ichigatsu is January, yes. So February would be Nigatsu. March would be Sangatsu. April is Shigatsu. It's always shi for April, Shigatsu. Then May would be Gogatsu. June, Rokugatsu. July is Shishigatsu, yes. August is Hachigatsu. September is Kugatsu. It's ku rather than kyu. So shichi and ku is similar to with clock time, okay? And then October would be Jugatsu. November, Juichigatsu. And December, Junigatsu. So you've got all 12 months of the year now. That easy. Yeah, they don't have crazy names for them like we do. Hai, hitoride, which means alone, one person de. So by oneself, alone. Now this de is like by. So by one person, as in alone. You're doing something alone or you're staying alone. Hitori de imasu would be I'm alone. I'm just in a place existing by myself. Right? Hitori de tabemasu, to eat alone. Things like that. Okay. Kayobi, which is Tuesday, and which? Fire. So why Tuesday is Fire Day, I'm not really sure. We came up with a theory this morning that maybe since Doyobi is Earth Day, and that's Saturday, maybe you were making your ceramics on Saturday and then they had to dry for a couple of days, and then Kayobi was firing them day in your kiln. I don't think that's really what it is, but hey.
Collect the firewood day.
Collect the firewood day, maybe. Or build a fire day, Kayobi. I don't know. Any Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts? What's this one?
Down.
Down, yes, which is? Anybody? I'll give you a hint. It sounds a little bit like past tense. Shita. Yes. Shita is past tense ending, right? Shita. Mashita is a past tense ending. But this shita just means down or below or under. Okay? Also, not to be confused with ashita, which means what?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, so a lot of people get confused. Ashita means tomorrow. This shita is past. No relationship between them other than the homophone. Okay, they sound alike. There's no other relationship. There's no particular reason why this word ashita sounds like the shita ending of mashita. It's just coincidence. Okay, and this shita also has no relationship to either one of those. Okay, so go figure. I don't know how it happened that way. I don't know why they're torturing us like this, but you got to remember, Japanese was not built to make it easier for gaijin to learn. It's just the way it is. So that's shita. Sanji han. So the sanji part is review, obviously. The han part is the new kanji, which means half. And if you look at it, does it not look like somebody's doing a karate chop and got the first of the 3 boards already and the other 2 are about to break? Right? Can you see that? Yep, so somebody's breaking boards and they've got 1 out of 3 so far. Okay, so that's a good way to remember that han means half, right? And this kanji is han. Okay. Yes, mokuyobi, Thursday, and this is wood day. So Tuesday was fire day, and now you've got wood day. And they're separated by suyobi, which is water day. So go figure. So first you've got a fire, then you put it out with your water, and then you go get more wood.
What's a yobi?
So this is suyobi. Notice that it's not pronounced mizu in this context. So this is another example of onyomi versus kunyomi. Onyomi being the Chinese origin reading, which sui is, and then mizu, when it's a standalone character, mizu is a Japanese reading. Because obviously Japanese people already had water long before they had the days of the week from Chinese or from any other source.
So it also means water in Chinese.
It means water in Chinese also. But Chinese, the Chinese character for water came to Japan via Buddhism in the 500s AD. But Japanese people already had a word for water long before then, right?
We hope so. It's kind
So-
of essential.
Right. So we can assume that mizu already existed in the language long before then. And then sui is from the Chinese pronunciation of water. Okay, so mizu and suyobi. Okay, so, and this one's pretty easy to remember because sui is water, right? Water Day Wednesday, they're both W sounds, right? So Water Day Wednesday, that's a way to remember suyobi. Yes, nichiyobi. Notice that this nichi and this bi are the same kanji. This is one of the kanji that has lots of different readings. Hi, bi, ni, nichi. Those are the ones I can think of right off the top of my head. Okay, so so this is nichiyobi, which is literally sun day. Okay, so that's probably one of the most self-explanatory of the days of the week, right? Doyobi, which is soil day, Saturday. Okay, soil day or earth day, if you prefer. Okay, but I like soil day because soil and Saturday both have S sounds also, so again, it becomes a mnemonic. Soil day, Saturday. Okay. Middle, yes. Middle, sometimes center, sometimes inside. Naka, there you go. Okay, so it's pronounced naka, It's also sometimes pronounced chu, as in Chugoku, Middle Kingdom. Funny how that works, huh? Middle Kingdom is really a literal translation from the Chinese word for itself. Okay, so naka or chu, depending on whether you're doing, again, naka, Japanese reading, chu, like in Chugoku, Chinese reading. Okay? And if you're talking about, for example, pen wa doko desu ka? Where's the pen? Kaban no naka desu. Inside the bag. So it can mean inside as well as middle. Up, on top of, or on, or above. It's all of those meanings, depending again on the context. And it's pronounced
Do it.
ue, yes. Okay, ue. Nihonjin, right? So, Nihon is literally sun's origin, or land of the rising sun, and then jin for people or person from, right? So if you want to write America jin, keep the America in katakana, but now you can write the jin in kanji. Same thing for any other Vietnam jin, or Philippine jin, or Mexico jin, or France jin, or any other nationality you want to write about. Okay, so that's Nihonjin. Hon, yes. Notice that the hon in hon and the hon in nihon are the same hon. Two different meanings, but they happen to be pronounced the same. They're both still the same hon reading, which is actually a Chinese origin reading, I believe. Moto is a Japanese reading for it. But in this case, it means origin, nihon. In this case, it doesn't. It just means book. Not really sure of the etymology of that one. It's kind of a weird one. What's this one? Hi, getsuyobi. And notice this is getsu, not gatsu. Ichigatsu is January, but getsuyobi is moon day, Monday.
Same root as in English.
Yeah. Okay, so getsuyobi, but ichigatsu. And again, getsu and gatsu are two alternate readings of this kanji that both get used a lot. So, and then Nihon, Japan. Sometimes also read as Nippon. And even Nihonjin can be pronounced also as Nipponjin. But that Nippon pronunciation has a much more nationalistic connotation to it. So post-World War II, not so popular anymore. Sometimes the more conservative politicians in Japan will use Nippon, Nipponjin, in their political speeches and such. And they're trying to kind of rally a lot more patriotism or whatever. But some people, especially people who actually remember World War II, really don't like that term anymore. Because it has too much of a strong association with World War II for some people. Okay, let's do some more vocabulary. Matsu means to wait. So matsu changes to machimasu. Right. Mae, in front of, yes. So mae, and then other directions are coming too. Iru means to exist for animate objects, right? People and animals. And iru changes to imasu. Yes, notice it's the only ru verb in this chapter. Okay, all the others were u verbs. Gomen nasai. I'm sorry. Byoin. Hospital. Right? Town, and it's also the sort of generic word for town or city when you're trying to find out like where somebody's from or what town something's happening in. Machi is sort of the generic term before you know whether it's a big city, a small city, a town, a village, whatever. Kino means
Yesterday.
yesterday. So now that we have past tense verbs, we can talk about kino sushi o tabemashita. Yesterday, someone ate sushi. Or, kino ikimashita. I went yesterday. Things like that. Ichiji kan. So ichiji we know, which is 1 o'clock. Kan changes it from 1 o'clock to 1 hour. So jikan as a phrase is a duration of an hour, and then you can put a different number to indicate how many hours. So 24 jikan would be 24 hours, yes. So, we talk about 24/7. 24 jikan would be the 24-hour piece of that kind of an expression. Toki. So, same kanji, right? Alternate reading, toki. Okay? Gets used in phrases like kodomo no toki. Kodomo means child. The no is the possessive no, the one you know. Kodomo no toki, can you guess what that phrase means?
Childhood?
Yes, childhood. Kodomo no toki, when someone was a child, in their childhood. So you can see this phrase cropping up. Kogo no toki would be another one. When I was in high school. Daigaku no toki, when I was in college. Okay, so generally used to talk about one's past. So if you're still in high school, you probably wouldn't use kogo no toki, but you could use koromo no toki to talk about when you were younger. Okay? Tsukue, desk. Yes. Nickel. Meru, email, yes. Notice that because it's a modern techno type word, it's in katakana and it's from English. Most of the modern tech words in Japanese are katakana words that came out of English. Vast majority. Koen, public garden, park. So Wickham Koen, things like that. Departo.
Department store.
Yes, department store. It's short for departamento store, which was too long. They didn't want to say all that anymore, so they shortened it to departo. Lots of Japanese katakana words are abbreviations. They might have started out saying the whole long thing, and then somewhere along the way they chopped it short. Think about Pocket Monster versus Pokemon. Some of them they leave long. PlayStation. They left that one long. Migi.
Right.
Right, yes. Migi. Migite would be right hand. Migi is the right side of something. Hi, arubaito. This one did not come from English. Anybody know German? Arbeit. Arubaito. It's the word for work in German, but arubaito is Japanese for a part-time job. So it's one of those where they borrowed it, but then they altered what it means. So arubaito is a part-time job. This one is from English. Class, yes, as in Nihongo no kurasu. Isu, chair, what you're all sitting in, isu. Omiyage, souvenir, yeah. So you go to Nihon and you come back with omiyage for all your friends, right?
Or gohan.
Gohan. Meal, and it also means cooked rice. Yes, so gohan, being specific, it's cooked rice, but it also means a meal in general. So you guys already know hiru gohan, asa gohan, ban gohan. Gohan by itself can mean a meal or it can mean just the rice. Because if you were really poor in Japan a couple hundred years ago, it was very possible that gohan was your whole meal sometimes.
Shikaku.
Shikaku. Anybody? It's one of those location words on that third page of vocab.
Near?
Near.
Near, yes, nearby, close. So shikaku. Okay, okay, this is not Mr. Taku.
Taku-san.
Every year I get, some people get confused and call this Mr. Taku on a test or something.
Many.
Many, lots of. So, takusan shimashita, I did a lot. Or, takusan tabemashita, I ate a lot. Or, takusan arimasu, I have a lot. Okay, it can, it's generally considered an adverb, but it can modify a variety of things. Doshite? Why? Okay. Oh, and these are actually not in,
Order.
well, this one's not even in your book, but it's a write-in for this chapter because they use it, but they don't teach it. So I added it to my list. Kara means from, as in Tokyo kara New York made, from Tokyo to New York. Or ichiji kara yoji made, from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Okay, so kara is from. It's also part of a phrase called sore kara, which means in addition. Sore as in that. Remember that? Sore. And then kara is like from there, from that place, from that event or that thing that you just said. So in addition to that, this next thing. So when you're saying like one sentence and then in addition, your next sentence, sore kara gets used. And that's also a write-in one that I wrote down in my copy of the book because I think that either gets used or it comes up in some way, I think in the workbook. So now you'll know. So anyway, kara is from.
Haru.
Haru means to be, to exist, for, inanimate, and it changes from aru to arimasu. Yes, and then kaku, to write, and it changes to kakimasu. Right. Let's do some more. Okay.
Hidari.
Hidari, left. So we had migi, right? Hidari is left. Ushiro is my opposite of maya. Mae, ushiro. Mae is front, ushiro is back. Okay. Kaimono. Kaimono, not kimono, but kaimono. Shopping, yes. Kai from kaimasu, to buy. Mono meaning thing. So buying things, kaimono. Makes sense, right? Anata means you. Okay. Inu, dog. Kodomo, child, right? Shashin, as in shashin o torimasu. Pictures, photos. So shashin is a photo or picture, and shashin o toru is to take a picture. Hoteru, from English. Yes, hotel. Restaurant, also from English. Jikan, hour. So like nijikan would be 2 hours. Okay.
Senshu.
Senshu,
Senshu.
sen is previous
Last
or
week.
last. Shu is week, so last week, sen shu. The week before the current one, sen shu. Remember shu from shumatsu, which was weekend. Here's sen shu, last week. And if you want to do last weekend, you can say sen shumatsu. You can combine them. Paru, sorry, ao is to meet, yes. Tomodachi ni aimasu, to meet with a friend. Tomodachi ni aimasu. So aimasu, ao takes ni usually. Tomodachi ni ao. Tomodachi ni aimasu. Tegami, letter. It's literally hand, paper. So you write on paper with your hand to make a tegami, right? Pan, bread from Spanish or Portuguese, not English, right? Yeah, they don't use burrito, they use pan. Otera, temple, Buddhist temple, otera. Supa, supermarket, again from English. Not to be confused with Supaman. Supa is a supermarket. Basute, bus stop, yes. And the basu part, again from English. The te part is kanji, it's from Japanese. Kau changes to kaimasu. It means to buy, yes. So kau and kaimasu and the kai in kaimono, all the same root. Okay. Toru, to take, as in take a picture, toru. And there are a bunch of homophones that are all pronounced toru but have different kanji for them. So like shike no toru, take a test, shashi no toru, take a photo, and a bunch of other places where toru gets used. They might sound alike, but they're not necessarily the same kanji. Wakaru changes to wakarimasu, and it means to understand, right? Gurai. Anybody? About. Okay, so remember we had goro before? Like niji goro would be approximately 2 o'clock. Niji kan gurai would be approximately 2 hours. So goro is for clock time, gurai is for duration of time. Make sense? It's an important distinction that Japanese makes. Yeah, you don't use goro for jikan, and you don't use gurai for ji. They don't mix and match. Niji goro, niji kan gurai. Dakara is like therefore. So it's on the end of a sentence or in between 2 sentences. So for example, I can't think of a good example. But dakara, this da is actually from des. And then the kara is, you remember the kara that we talked about that's like from? Well, this kara is more like therefore, or that's why. So dakara. So if something is true, therefore, and then something else. So it's like a cause and effect kind of. Tonari. Next to, yes. So remember we had shikaku, which is nearby. Tonari is next to. Tonari is also the word that Japanese uses for neighbor. So, ever heard of the anime My Neighbor Totoro? Tonari no Totoro. So it's literally like the Totoro next door. Okay, that's tonari. To is with or and, as in tomodachi to ikimasu, going with a friend. sometimes, like, hon to noto ga arimasu. I have a book and a notebook. But when you're talking about people, tomodachi to tabemasu. Eating with a friend. You're not eating your friend, you're eating with your friend. Tomodachi to tabemasu. Aida. Yes, Aida, as in, Jamie-san wa Shiera-san to Ken-san no Aida desu. She's in between, exactly. Aida is in between. And interestingly enough, it's the same kanji as the kan for like Nichi kan. That's the same kanji. Very cool. Okay. Made is the other half of kara. So one place kara, the second place made, from one place to another place. Or ichiji kara, niji made, from 1 o'clock until 2 o'clock. So this is to or until, depending on the context. Okay, and that's another one that I added to your list because your textbook didn't teach it, but the workbook assumes you already know it somehow. What's this one? Hitoride. So, like, once again, I'm re-encountering this, but I did kanji with vegana for some of these. Stop. With, and these really look like what they mean, don't they? They really demonstrate what they mean, shita and ue. And nata kind of looks like it too, because you've got the thing and then you've got a line going through the middle of it, it's to indicate middle, right, or inside. Kinyobi, mokuyobi, suyobi, yobi, kayobi, getsuyobi, honya. So notice your vocabulary word just teaches you honya like this, but I wanted you to know that it's this honya. The ya part literally means roof or building or house, but in this case it's bookshop, honya. And then hito. So from now on, anytime there's a kanji that you guys know, feel free to use it, even if the rest of the kanji compound is something that we haven't studied yet and you need to write the rest of that in hiragana, that's fine. But it's good to start practicing putting whatever part of it in kanji you can, even if the remainder of it ends up still in hiragana. And that's what Japanese kids do too. You know, when you've got a first grader or a second grader who knows certain kanji but not others, they will write their words in hybrid, you know, a mixture of hiragana and kanji depending on which kanji they do or don't know. Okay. Any questions about the vocab? Okay, let's try some exercises then. Isn't it? So we're going to do this first exercise. So this one, this page, Kakuju peiji, sometimes people get confused about this page and think that A and B relate to one another. They don't. Okay, exercise A is just looking at the picture and trying to come up with sentences using arimasu and imasu to say what exists in the picture. Okay, and then part B is actually answering completely separate questions that do not relate back to that picture at all. Okay, so every year I get people trying to associate the two, and they don't. Okay, so what I want to do for part A is just everybody take a turn. We're going to just go around the room and everybody come up with one sentence that no one else has said yet about something that exists in the picture. So it could be, you know, that there is a dog, there is a cat, there is a restaurant, there is a bank, whatever. In Japanese, we're not messing with location words yet at this point. We're keeping it simple. We're just doing noun ga arimasu or noun ga imasu. That's all we're doing for this one. Okay, so it's pretty easy. People always want to make it harder than it is. So, do I have any volunteers to start? Hi, Julianne.
人があります。
人が
Wait, no. Wait, no. います。
There you go. 人がいます. Okay, let's just keep coming around the circle then, Corey.
猫がいます。
はい、猫がいます. Okay, しおさん.
喫茶店があります。
はい、喫茶店があります. Good. ジェイミさん.
犬がいます。
はい、
自転車があります。
はい、
郵便局があります。
はい、
病院があります。
はい、
図書館があります。
はい.
猫がいます。
Somebody already said that one. Can you find a different one?
銀行があります。
はい、銀行があります. はい、
デパートがいます。があります。
はい、デパートがあります. はい. Oh, and Julian already did one. Okay, so we came full circle. So, cool. So there's more, but that's pretty good, right? And later, when we practice location stuff, if you want to come back to this, this is a really good picture to use for, you know, there's a restaurant next to the supermarket and there's a coffee shop between the bus stop and the hospital and stuff like that. But that's a later exercise because we're trying to build up to that gradually, not just jump in at the deep end. Okay, so now let's look at part B, and these are entirely different questions, remember. So let's let Julianne ask the first question and Corey answer it.
あなたの町に日本のレストランがありますか？
Right, so first of all, do we understand what it's asking?
I was having trouble with this because
Okay, so let's break it down into pieces, okay? So anata no machi ni, what's anata no machi? Your town, okay, so anata no machi ni,
oh, I get it now.
in your town, yes.
Do you have a Japanese
Nihon
restaurant?
no restaurant, yeah, Japanese restaurant, ga arimasu ka, is there. Okay, so does your town have, or in your town is there, a Japanese restaurant? Make sense now? Okay, and how would you go about answering something like that?
はい、
Easier than you think.
はい、日本のレストランありますがあります。
はい、はい、日本のレストランがあります. Notice there's no to in restaurant. Yeah, people tend to want to put a to on there because it sounds more like the English word, but there's no to on the end of it. It's just the restaurant. Okay, so you could say, はい、日本のレストランがあります. If you wanted to be really long-winded, you could say, はい、私の町に日本のレストランがあります. If you wanted to be really short and succinct, you could say, はい、あります. Okay? So you've got at least 3 different lengths of answer that are possible here. はい、あります. はい、日本のレストランがあります. Or はい、私の町に日本のレストランがあります. Okay, did that answer everybody's questions? じゃあ、コリさん、2番、シアラさんに聞いてください。
あなたの家に猫あります。
猫
いますか？
猫が
猫がいますか？
もう一度。
あなたの家に猫がいますか？
いますか？
いえ、猫がいませんか？
いません。
Oh, you see いません. Oh,
Just
sorry.
いません, right?
I was
Because we're
thinking
still in
about-
present tense right now.
For some reason I was thinking about
Past tense. That's okay. So, iie neko ga imasen. That works. Okay, and the longer answer could be iie watashi no ie ni neko ga imasen. And the short answer could be iie imasen. Okay? So again, all of these are going to have all those different options, right? Short answer, long answer, medium answer. Okay, じゃあ3番どうぞ。
Okay. あなたの
学
oh,
校
that's oh, sorry, the two looks a little bigger.
Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes.
学校に何がありますか?
Ah,
What is
what's
it?
nani?
What?
Yeah, so
Is it saying, what is what is it saying?
what does your college have in it? Or what exists in your college? Or in your school? あなたの学校に何がありますか?
That's
So,
pretty broad.
yeah, it's very broad,
You
right?
can say you, like I exist in my college.
Yeah, or you could say it has chairs, it has desks,
Dogs.
There's a cafe.
Our
there's a
college-
cafe, yeah,
You can
there's a
literally say anything
bookstore,
and
there's a library. So, and you could use to in between nouns if you want to list more than one thing. So if you wanted to say, for example, there is a library and a bookstore, you could put to in between those two nouns to indicate both of those exist.
Does the answer have to make a ton of sense? Like, can I just say there's dogs in
Okay.
my college? Okay,
Okay.
cool, 'cause that's ideal.
Good.
How would you answer that?
Okay, so do you want the long, short, or medium answer?
Let's go with medium.
Okay, so.
You say inu,
Yeah, inu ga.
inu ga imasu.
Yes,
imasu.
inu ga imasu. Okay, anata no gakkou ni nani ga arimasu ka? Inu ga imasu. So yes, when your answer is converting from animate to, or inanimate to animate or vice versa, you have to change the verb to suit. Arimasu is, you know, like nani ga arimasu ka, what does it have, is both asking what inanimate objects does it have, and also sometimes asking more generally what exists. So you can shift it to the other verb if you only want to address the animate objects that exist in that location. Question?
Well, if you're addressing both, like you said,
Then you would probably, for now at least, separate it into two sentences. For
Okay.
example, inu ga imasu, isu mo arimasu.
okay.
Okay, so you can use
Dogs
mo.
and chairs.
So there are dogs and there are chairs also.
Dogs on chairs.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Chairs,
Okay.
dogs.
Yeah, and to use the other example that I was talking about a minute ago, you could also say something like Toshokan to honya ga arimasu. Or to use people example, you could say gakusei to sensei ga imasu. Okay? And all of these would count as the shorter answers possible for this kind of question, because this is not a yes/no question. So you can't just say hai arimasu, because the question is nani, what? So you have to fill in some sort of a noun where the nani was. Hai.
Would her response be, there is a dog at school, or there is dogs? Is there like a
Is there
different
plural?
There's no difference between singular and plural here.
So I could be saying there's a singular dog, or there could be many dogs, you just wouldn't
Right,
know?
right, you don't know unless you put a number to it,
Oh.
or some other,
Okay, so-
like,
Run by numbers.
So-
Shotaku-san, no.
yeah, so if you want to say inu ga takusan imasu, then you're saying there are lots of dogs. If you want to
Too
say
many
inu ga ippiki imasu, there's one dog. If you want to be non-specific, inu ga imasu. There are one or more dogs. Hi.
After the place, why do we use partial ni instead of de?
Very good question. Does anyone have a guess as to why it would be me instead of de here? I did that up there too.
Because you're not there at the school.
No, it's not that. De was used with what kind of verbs?
Destinations.
No,
Oh,
de was
Action.
used with action verbs,
That's where
like
it's always-
restaurant de tabemasu, eat at a restaurant, right? If you're just existing in a place, you're using ni because you're just describing existence, not an action that's taking place. Okay, so there's that very fine distinction there that, again, English doesn't know how to translate, right? He's in the college, he's eating in the college. We don't necessarily change our preposition, right? But Japanese makes a clear distinction between passive existence in a location versus actively doing something in a location. Interesting, huh? The closest I can think of would be to say he's in the school versus he's studying at school. But that's one of those things where you're making a distinction that's not necessary. In English, you could use in or at for both of those, really. You know, he's at school, or he's studying in school, right? We don't have a clear distinction between those two, but Japanese does. Okay, let's try to get a few more of these done. Dozo, Kami-san.
あなたの学校に日本人の学生がいますか?
Right, so what's it asking?
Do we have any, oh, me?
Yeah.
Or, do we have any Japanese students at our school?
Yes.
So would it be like ni gurai? We
Don't even try to put a number on it yet, we
Okay.
haven't studied that yet.
So, hi, gakko ni nihonjin no gakusei ga ikimasu.
Ga,
Or ga imasu.
imasu, right.
Sorry.
So short answer would be, hai, imasu. And you did the long answer, hai, gakko ni nihonjin no gakusei ga imasu. Okay, じゃあ次、5番。
デパートに何がありますか?
Right, so what's that asking?
What's in the department store?
Yeah, what's in the department store? So another one of those really broad general questions.
So, jeans があります。
はい、ジーンズがあります。That's perfectly good answer. はい、どうぞ。
この教室に誰がいますか?
はい。So what's it asking?
Who is in this classroom?
Yes, who's in this classroom? 教室。
私とベサニさんがいます。
はい、there you go. 次。Yeah, 動物園、yes.
動物園に何がいますか?
I don't know how you say it.
Lion is a katakana one.
Okay, so, ライオンがいます。
はい。Yeah, I'm not sure why they stuck that one in there when we haven't studied Dobutuen yet and we haven't learned any zoo animal words yet.
Could you do
Or just like big cat.
Yeah, could you
Yeah,
say big cats?
oki neko ga imasu.
Well, you can
Yeah.
do the dog, the zoo jokes. You guys know that one? I went to the zoo and I only had one dog. It was a Shih Tzu. The dog.
Really bad.
I tried.
じゃあ、8番。
Okay,
Let's just finish the last two real quick.
あなたの国に何がありますか?
I don't know what it means by kuni. Is it the
Country.
country?
So,
Okay.
as in America.
Um,
Remember, this is assuming that we're all in Japan and the class is full of people from a variety of countries. So what you have in your own country might be different from what other people have.
Okay, so could I just be like, hamburger ga arimasu?
That works?
Alright.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're known for, right?
That's it.
Okay, last one.
Hamburger.
ハンバーガーがあります。はい。
Alright. あなたの家に何がありますか?
That's another broad one, just one.
what's
Yeah,
in the house.
yeah, what's in your house? Just name something.
No, I do have a cat in my house. So, neko ni.
No, it's not in the cat. The
So
cat is
this
in the house.
Neko ga imasu.
There you go, neko ga imasu, yes. Uchi ni neko ga imasu, or just neko ga imasu. Because, you know, uchi or ie
How many
is the
cats there
location.
are.
Yeah, you don't have to state a number there. You don't have to let us know if you're a cat lady or not. Okay, was there another question?
I was going to ask if Japanese have like, in English, how you have to list other people before you say yourself. Do Japanese have a preference on that?
I'm not really sure. That's a good question. I think. I'm not really sure. I think in generally, if you're listing like family members or something, it generally goes eldest to youngest and male before female. But if you're just listing like yourself and a friend, and you're about the same age, I'm not really sure.
Okay. So in general, eldest, youngest.
Yeah.
So, since we know how to write Nihon, how do you write Gaiji?
Well, the kanji for guy is one we haven't studied yet, but I can show you real quick.
Isn't
Hold
it
on.
really just like